welcome. I'm going to kick off and just people will join as they come. I do want to respect the time of those who have joined early, but welcome to another Sip and Learn. This time on performance appraisals, and the first one we're doing on a Saturday, so I'm really glad to see people actually joining me on a Saturday. For those who have not met me before or ever joined one of these, my name is Mary Adeyemi. I am the founder of viSHEbility and a lot of other things, but in summary, I spend my days working in banking within the credit risk function at Goldman Sachs as an executive director. And then alongside my role, I have the opportunity of running viSHEbility, which is a platform on a mission to improve outcomes for Black female professionals in the workplace through inspiration, coaching, and community. And so we run these sessions as part of our tribe groups of engagement. So we have a tribe group on Telegram where we actively just, we have, 200 plus women on there, and we just share tips and hints and help each other and support each other as we go through our career. And it's, 200 plus, Black, if not almost 100% Black women, I think. Maybe we have a few non-Black women, but for the most part, it is a tribe group for Black female professionals. And it's been such an honor to start something like that and kind of see it grow and actually see it helping people. And so this is one of our sessions that we do for the tribe, and then we open it up to our wider online community. And typically you would normally hear me have like a conversation with someone on here, but this is going to be our webinar series. So I'm actually bringing in an absolutely phenomenal woman to talk about performance appraisals and why it's so important. And in particular, thinking through my journey in my career and the journey that I'm still on, performance appraisals were just one thing that I never really paid that much attention to. I thought it was, okay, well, you do the job, keep your head down, make sure everything is great. And then, once every or twice every year, you're going to have this conversation and you're just going to go there and hear feedback. I always thought about it as performance appraisals where you hear feedback of what you're doing. And oh my God, was I so wrong? And, I made so many mistakes as a result of not really leveraging my performance appraisals to, yes, get feedback, but actually communicate my value and also make sure that I was, I was laying down my requests, I was communicating what I wanted and what was the next steps and stuff. And so I'm really using this as an opportunity to make sure that you guys don't make those same mistakes and that sort of your ABCs of performance appraisals, why they're important, how to prepare for them, communicate in the meetings, and then, leverage them for your future career growth and the plans that you have. So with that, I'm going to introduce, Bukola Adisa. Many people have met her before. She's the founder of Career Masterclass, and I'm going to leave her to explain exactly what Career Masterclass does. But she's just an excellent, phenomenal woman, and she's now doing Career Masterclass full time. But prior to that, she was an MD at Barclays in the Chief Controls Office. I think that's right. And I always say to her, and she's a big sister of mine, I always say to her like that she's a bit of a unicorn. We don't have Black female MDs, so it's just always absolutely an honor to actually do life with her and be as close as I am, with her. And she's just graciously given us an hour of her time to go through this. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Bukola. And I'll stop sharing my screen so that you guys can kind of see her in 3D. Hi, welcome. Thank you for doing.
Thank you so much, Shokwe. Thank you. Shokwe is one of my, I have a group of female professionals that are very important to me. These are people I pour into. When they call, I answer, and Shokwe is one of them. I am really, really privileged to have Shokwe in my tribe, and she's spoken before at our conferences. She's just phenomenal, and I'm super proud of Shokwe's journey and what she's doing, not only at Goldman Sachs but also with viSHEbility. I can remember when viSHEbility was an idea. We were at HAS, in St. Paul's, and we were talking about it, and I was telling her, absolutely go for it. We can have viSHEbility conference, we can do this, we can do that. And the power of dreams, and here we are today, and it will only go from strength to strength because this is so needed. People need authentic, safe places where we can grow together, we can learn together. So as Shokwe said, I'm Bukola Adisa. I am a compliance, controls, governance professional, and up until recently, like Shokwe said, I was an MD at Barclays, And I led a team, a large team within the Chief Controls Office, and I was helping Barclays embed a good controls culture and getting rid of all of their regulatory troubles. And I recently took a career break. Whether I will go back or not is still under debate. But in the meantime, I'm running Career Masterclass full-time. Career Masterclass is an organization I started in 2015 as a way of giving back. It was at a point where my career had, taken off, and I looked around me, like Chokwe said, the only Black woman. You go to conferences, you're the only Black one on the panel. You're in meetings with like the CEO and the CROs, you're the only Black person. And at that time, I was at RBS, I was leading a global team of 57 people, and I was the second youngest person on my team. So out of my 57 people in the UK, in Singapore, and in the US, I was the second youngest. So I was, like Shokwe said, like a bit of a unicorn. But for me, it wasn't enough to be a unicorn. It wasn't. I didn't see it as a badge of honor. I wanted to create many, many more people like me. And so I thought, to create this career development platform, to be able to give back to people and to be able to teach them, the things that have helped me progress in my own career. So Career Masterclass is not sort of, the kind of platform you come to where people don't share authentically. We, through the things we do, we have a community, we have a members club, we run the annual Stretch Conference, and we have an online learning platform. Through all of those things that we do, all of those interventions, one thing that runs through it is practical tips, practical advice. If you are not able to share authentically and you cannot talk about what you've done and how other people can go and replicate that success, it is not success. Any success that cannot be replicated is not sustainable success. So for us to be able to replicate the success, we need to be quite savvy, and we need to be quite intentional about teaching people the practical things that they can use to progress in their careers. So that's what we do at Career Masterclass. So right now we're like I said, we have a free members club where people sign up to, and then you have access to all of our resources, and you have access to some courses. We have some others that are paid, and you also have access to our monthly masterclasses where we bring experts to talk through the things that help them progress in their career. So for instance, on Tuesday next week, we are running a masterclass on virtual visibility in the workplace, how you can raise your visibility, because it's really important in these times. But I'm here today to talk to you about performance appraisals. And I'm going to be sharing my story quite authentically, and I will be sharing about the things that have helped me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I would be sharing for about 30 minutes, but I want you guys to get your questions ready, because I also know the power in, you being able to ask questions and, whatever is on your mind, so that we can, as a community, as a group together, we can help each other through it. So I've titled this The Big Conversation. Year-end appraisals are really is a big conversation. And unfortunately, people don't prepare for it as much as they should. And I know that I've been guilty of that in the past, where it is just this very annoying reminder that HR keeps sending, and they say, book a meeting with your boss, write this thing up in the system, and blah, 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 blah. And then what it's like is really busy. It's the morning before it's due to close. You just quickly type banging some things in there. You go to the meeting with your boss, you're not prepared. And most times you come back and you are shocked and disappointed. I always say that if you come out of your year end or mid-year, because now we're getting ready for year end, and in most companies, year end is formal, mid-year is less formal. I know in some companies, mid-year is formal, but in most organizations, especially the ones I've worked in, mid-year is like, you're getting ready, it's informal or it's semi-formal, but people are sort of, the purpose is for them to start sort of telling you what you're trailing, right? We say, use it as a trailing discussion. And I have seen so many people that go into their year-end or their mid-year conversations. Mid-year, if you're surprised at mid-year, it's fine. You can be surprised at mid-year, because a lot of your mid-year conversation is happening around the June, July time. So you can be surprised at mid-year, because you have 5-6 more months to fix it. If you're surprised at year end and you come out of it crying or disappointed, or you come out of it and you call your husband, wife, or girlfriend and say, I'm leaving this company, I hate them, you've not done a great job of managing your career up until that point. And that's the honest truth. Your year-end conversation shouldn't be a shocker to you. It should be a validation or it should be a culmination of little conversations that have happened all through the year. And this is what I'm going to be talking to you guys about. So if you're here and you think, year-end conversation is not really, important, take it really seriously. And the reason is, in an ideal world, there'll be equality, there'll be justice, there'll be fairness. In an ideal world, the hardest worker will take the biggest rewards. In an ideal world, the most technical and the most competent person will get ahead. But if we lived in an ideal world, George Floyd would not have died, okay? So we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a world where people's interactions with you are colored through and filtered through their implicit bias, where people have favorites. And we all work in corporations where opportunities are limited. There are many talented people out there. There are many, there are many staff. When I worked at Barclays, we're an organization of 170,000 people. But we were not an organization that had the position of 170,000 MDs or 170,000 directors or 170,000 VPs. So you get what I'm trying to say? Because we have very limited opportunities, there will be competition. And where there is competition, human nature will kick in, and there will be politics, and there will be bias, and there will be gameplay. I don't want you to spend your time and waste your time railing against that system, right? I always say to people, focus on what you can control. This is not something you can control. We're all doing good work. Everything that we do, whether we're doing it with Career Masterclass or with viSHEbility or other people out there, some of you will know Dr. Shola Moshobamimu, you will know David McQueen, all those voices that are advocating, one day change will happen. But while we are in the process of marching for change, you need to laser focus on your career and learn how to navigate within the system in which you find yourself. I have so many people I coach, at work when I was at Barclays, because again, I was one of the two black female MDs. I had a list as long as my arm, people that I gave advice. In fact, where I sat at work, you will be guaranteed at any point in time to see, black ladies or black guys come to me for advice. And what they spend a lot of their time saying, is unfair. And the amount of times I've heard is unfair, like if I had £1 for every time somebody told me it was unfair, I would never need to work again in my life, right? Every time is unfair, and this happened and that happened. And I'm like, that is fine. It's never going to be fair, right? It's never going to be fair. It's never going to be easy. It wasn't designed to be easy. And I was talking to someone recently and I said, for the white people, it's not easy. I've been in meetings where they've thrown white people under the bus. I mean, you guys work in organizations where a white person is there today, gone tomorrow, and is taking a career break or is gone, moved on to external opportunities. So, for the white people too, it's not fair. Then you now add on all of the other things that seemingly are stacked against us. You add on the race thing, you add on the gender thing, you add on all of this intersectionality. If you have a family, young family, you add that on. So it's not designed to be fair. But what you can do is you can learn how to play the system and you can learn how to navigate. And this is what I'm here to teach you today, especially when it comes to the big conversation. And there are two aims to this. Number one is to help you realize, to help you set yourself up in a way that you cannot be shafted, right? That you can you can get yourself ready and have a watertight case. So much so that when you sit down with that boss, and you've set it up, you are setting, it's almost like when you set somebody up and you are in charge of the outcome, you are leading the person, sort of to a desirable outcome, so that you are not in a situation where you start to hear stories that touch, so that's the first thing, that you are not in a place where you're shafted. Secondly, that perhaps you work in a toxic organization and you end up being shafted, that you have your ducks in a row, that you're walking out of the organization with a lot of money. Okay, so these are the things that you need to do, because there are either of two outcomes. Either, you have a good year-end conversation, it is fair, and you have some points to work on for next year, and or it's great and you get what you deserve, or somebody decides against their better judgment to shaft you, and then you are armed with the information and the evidence to take the case further. Right? Those are the two outcomes. We all hope for, we hope for the best, but we plan for the worst. So don't be there saying, it can never happen to me. Nobody's plotting to get me out. Guys, like, this coronavirus pandemic is real. Companies are not making money. I know that Tommy is on the phone and she's in HR. So she can tell you, companies are not making money. And because companies are not making money, they'll be looking actively at ways to reduce the workforce. A decent organization will do it in a transparent manner. A bad organization with toxic people will do it in a way where they try and frustrate people out. So, like I said, we hope for the best, but we plan for the worst. Right, okay, let's go. So you all know what an appraisal is. It is a formal assessment, typically in an interview, of the performance of an employee over a particular period. So when I say typically in an interview format, is like, it's face-to-face, you and your boss, you typically have, the conversation. Now, what a lot of people don't know happens before that time that goes in that before, your boss puts time in the diary to say, let's talk about your performance in the year, is something called calibration sessions would have happened. Let me explain to you what calibration sessions are. Calibration sessions is when your boss and his peers get in a room and they talk about every single person. Sometimes it happens after the appraisals, but in my experience, most times it happens before the appraisal with your boss. There would have been a calibration session. So that's why you cannot leave it till it's too late. That's why you cannot leave it till the very end. Right? That's why you cannot go with it. You cannot do it via the HR timeline. You need to do it early enough and set it up for success, because before the appraisal is the calibration session where everybody gets discussed. And then your boss presents your case and says, oh, I present Mary this year. I think she's been outstanding and I want to rate her outstanding. And another thing I want to unveil is, in most organizations, not all, in most organizations, there's something called the bell curve. Okay? And, I know, people like told me the HR, it's a construct of HR. And the bell curve says there is a curve. So there's the top performance. So let's say they will say something like 20% of everyone in an organization. So let's say there are 100 people within the team. They will then say to the head of the team, your curve needs to go something like this. 10% have to be outstanding. So you can only allocate the outstanding rating to only 10% of people. Then the middle layer, which is achieving, you are okay, should make up like maybe 70%, because that is where a lot of people, they will want to push a lot of people there. And then you must find 20% of people to rate needs improvement. And they do it for two reasons. It all boils down to money. Because if we're all outstanding and then they've said everybody that is rated outstanding this year is going to get a 50% bonus, if everybody is outstanding, that company is about to go bankrupt and they are not able to pay that money. So that is why there's the concept of the bell curve. A lot of you do not know. I'm unveiling this because I'm senior. I've done bell curves. I've argued bell curves. It's not right. And every organization I've worked in, I've said categorically, this is unfair. This is a way for you to discriminate. It's not right, but it exists. It's not in any policy anywhere. It's not in HR policy. It exists. There is a bell curve. If you are lucky and you work in a forward-thinking organization, you are really lucky. But every single organization I've worked till today, and believe me, Shopper can tell you, I've worked in a lot. I've worked in 4 of the biggest banks in the world, and I've worked in a consulting organization. Every single organization has used the bell curve, where only 10%, and sometimes it's arbitrary. Sometimes when there's no money, they're like, only 5% can be outstanding, and you have to look for 30% that will be needs improvement. And what happens to people that needs improvement? You put them on a PEEP, but we all know that people rarely survive a PEEP, which is a performance improvement plan. Those are the 30% that are going to be top of the list for the redundancy round that we inevitably come around. That is how it works. And that bell curve is what is on the forefront of everybody's mind when they're sitting in that calibration session before you even have performance appraisal with your boss. So everyone is fighting for their person. And if you don't have a sponsor, this is where you're exposed. Because the people that have sponsors will not allow their people to be pushed, even if their person is the most useless person on the team. Waste of space, waste of energy, waste of oxygen, waste of everything. They will fight for that person. They will say, no, he has improved, he's taking the feedback on board. And what they would also have done is they would have lined up all two of their pairs, because it's not enough for me to be pounding the table for Mary. I need people to corroborate what I'm saying. So I would have gone, and I've done it, so I'm being very open and transparent. I would have gone to two of my colleagues. I'll say, David, I'm putting Mary up. Mary cannot be in the 20% of needs improvements. I'm putting her outstanding. And this is what I'm going to say. But we'll say, oh, but Mary, on media, people said Mary was, was aggressive. I'll say, no. I've spoken to her. She's gotten the feedback. In fact, I can even lie and say, oh, she's gotten feedback. Even the client wrote an email. Please, I need you to back up Mary. So he will say, okay, I'll back up Mary if you back up Harry. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Mary and Harry are the ones that go for it. So I speak, this is what happens. I tell you guys no lie. I'll speak to two people. So we are all there, we are waiting. When Mary comes up and I say, Mary's outstanding and Mary's this and Mary's that. And then someone pipes up, I was like, yeah, but she's aggressive. I'm like, no, she's turning it around. Even David has noticed. And David will say, yeah, I've noticed that and I'm giving her feedback. Like guys, this is what happens. So if you do not have a sponsor, you may be the best things in sliced bread. You may be the best person. If you do not have someone pounding the table for you, your outstanding becomes, middle. You get pushed to, you are achieving. And for you to get pushed to that middle, that means you're knocking it out of the park. If you are actually just achieving and, there are few needs improvement areas, guess what? You get pushed straight to 20%. And if nobody is there fighting for you, that sticks. That is how it happens. So that is the importance, how important it is that you take everything I'm telling you to do very seriously. And now is the time to start, okay? You need to change your strategy. You can't just wait for the email from HR to come in. You can't just bounce into that room on December 23 and say, oh yeah, now I want to talk about my year. You know what? By that time, it's signed, sealed, done. Bonuses have been allocated. We're just waiting for the accounts, the annual accounts to be signed up by the remuneration committee so it's paid in the new year. By the time people that have appraisal sessions in December, I'm sorry, it's too late. Like there's nothing your boss, if you stand on your head, there's nothing your boss can do. It's been signed, it's done. Like your bonus figures are locked in. For you to move that number, you would have to, like your boss would have had to get it really wrong. And you would have to go back all the way to the remuneration committee for them to re-sign it. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. So it's really important. I can feel in my spirit that we're going to run out of time. Okay. Right, okay. So these are my top tips. I have 5 top tips to give to you for you to have a slamming year-end appraisals. And these are things that worked for me and people that I've coached. Number 1 is timing. Number 2 is outcomes. Number 3 is prep. Number 4 is targets. Number 5 is allies. Let's get started. Timing. Timing is all about the when. So if you want to get promoted, if you want to get promoted, if you want a pay rise, whatever it is, don't go into your performance appraisal without an expectation of what you want the outcome to be, right? So if you know that, I'm a new joiner, I've only just joined, I've joined at a premium, I just want them to know that I'm doing a great job, then that's fine. You can then, you don't need to, you're not looking to get promoted. But if you're looking to get promoted, especially if you're looking to get promoted, you need to start that planning from the start of the year. So plan your promotion points well in advance. Now, some people also do not understand the company's performance and promotion cycles, what happens when and how. Some organizations, you can only get promoted twice in a year. Some people don't do out of cycle promotions. Some people only don't do role-based promotions. Some organizations don't do, only do once a year promotions. So when you join any organization, and this is your first homework, because there's some of you here now, you may not know, right? You just see people get promoted. You don't know how, when, why it happens. So your number 1 homework now is find out your company's performance and promotion cycles. That's the first thing I find out when I join any organization. When I was of I was going to say when I was of childbearing age, but I'm still of childbearing age. But when I still wanted to have children, the first thing I would check is their maternity policy, because, you know, I want to time it so that, you know, I plan my pregnancy for when. But I want to know, like, how much, like, how quickly can I get pregnant? It's not the one that I join today, I get pregnant tomorrow, you tell me you've not worked here for a year, so you can't get money. No. So I check the maternity policy. That's the number one thing. But now, you know, praise Jesus, I'm not having children again in Jesus' name. So I don't check that now. What I check now is, you know, performance and promotion. Because I don't want to work hard and then somebody tells me, oh, but the promotion was in February and it's not again till next February until somebody dies. You get what I mean? So you need to know, when is the promotion cycle? What happens when? And how does it happen? Do they just tap you on the shoulder? Do you have to present a business case? Do you have to walk on the moon? Do you have to win business? Like, you need to understand. You need to understand how the promotion cycle works. And this is very important because there's so many of you cry. People come to me, Bukola, I did not get promoted. I'm like, okay, what's the criteria for promotion? You do not know. Sister, if you do not know, then that means you're not ready to get promoted. So you need to understand the company's performance and promotion cycles. How often do they have, you know, performance? You know, is it a typical twice a year? I know some organizations that they do quarterly, especially some, you know, based in the US. Some people do quarterly, some people do monthly, like monthly performance cycles. So you want to understand that. Then also you need to make your business case for promotion before the year-end performance discussion. What I have found, and you know, Shokwe can tell you, especially in banking, is when you come in as a grad, you are balling, like everything is planned for you, right? You spend 1 year as analyst, 1 year as associate, 1 year as AVP, and then the gravy train stops. Because once you hit AVP, then you need to be managing your career. But that's not, nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you that you now need to make the business case that, you know, it's not about just time spent in role. That you now need to be thinking about when you want to get promoted. See, it is a rare boss that will look at you and say, oh, actually, I think you should go for promotion next year. It's a rare boss. That boss is, you know, emotionally intelligent, you know, is a child of God, you know, that boss is special. Is a rare boss that does that, right? So you need to grab hold of your own career. If you want to be promoted, you see that objective setting at the beginning of the year, that is when it starts. So I don't, you know, so I know so many people, they'll say, oh, the objective is cascading from the CEO to the CFO to the, and it gets to you. Fine, I add mine, right? Because what doesn't get measured does not get done. So you spell it out very clearly in your objectives. I want to get, my objectives is this year, I want to get to director by the end of the year. I want to be on the director pathway. And these are the things I'm going to do to get there. What, how much, by when, and map it out with your line manager. Don't let him just give you some woolly, oh, you know, we'll see how it goes. No, we're not going to see how it goes. We're going to spend the time and brain space now to think about what it is you need me to do. And also give me some stretch target. What are the stretch targets that you need me to do, so that if I can tick all of these things, then at year end, there will be no stories that touch the hearts. Like, we are all clear. But can you see that if you want an outcome that will come at the end of the year or even the year before, you need to start working on it from the beginning of the year. So the objective setting, you just don't do it the day before it's due. Yeah. That's not when you do it the day before it's due, and you just copy and paste any nonsense that's been cascaded from the CEO and so say your objectives are done. No, you take it more seriously. Then you need to be vocal and monitor your progress throughout the year. The first time your boss should hear about your desire for promotion is not a year end. This has happened to me. I'm sure some of you that come to Career Masterclass have heard the story where, you know, I took a pay cut to get into compliance in a consulting firm, and it was based on the understanding that, you know, I would then come up a level and get the money back, and I would be promoted. And then I was put on a client from hell, where Shokwe works now. That was my client's day. It was a terrible, terrible time. I worked my socks off. You know, I did everything. And then one day, and I got ready, I started getting ready for promotion. So I spoke to people, because again, this place, I understood that it's not the kind of place that they tap you on the shoulder and say it's time for promotion. You have to present a business case and all that kind of stuff. So I had my business case done. And then one day I bounced into the office because I was on client side, right? I bounced into the office and I said to the partner, oh, my business case is ready. I'm ready for panel. He said, what panel? I said, promotion panel. He said, panel was last week. I said, it couldn't have been last week because I wasn't there. And I broke down, I cried, but there was nothing this guy could do for me because he said to me, he said, Bukola, you can't assume that I remember a conversation we had 6 months ago. You'd never reinforced it at any point in time that you still wanted to be considered for promotion. So that's what I'm saying to you guys. You need to be vocal and monitor the progress throughout the year. If you have a boss that does not put one-to-one in the diary, or his one-to-one is very work-related, this is where you have control. Set an agenda. All my one-to-ones with my boss always has an agenda. I send it to him, I send it to his EA, and I take a copy into the meeting. So we talk about work stuff, then we talk about personal development stuff, because not all managers are qualified to be managers. Not all managers know how to manage people. So you will help them manage you, right? Sometimes you need to tell people, you need to give people the roadmap, the template for how they treat you. So I'm not going to be managed by anyhow boss because you know somebody and you're my boss. No, I'm going to teach you how to manage me. So I always have an agenda. If my boss cancels one-to-one, because my ex-boss used to have one-to-ones monthly, I prefer weekly. I prefer weekly 15 minutes, 30 minute sessions, but he liked monthly 1 hour sessions. If he cancels it twice, then I write an email and I say, I'm a bit concerned that we are canceling, the one-to-ones because, my personal development is very important. And I trust you to take it important as well. So I'm sure you're really busy, but let's look at another time that suits you. I guarantee you it doesn't happen again because it's an email. If anything happens, HR will be getting a copy of that email. So you need to, if you have a boss that does not put in one-to-ones, you need to put in a one-to-one. And you need to ensure that you're not just discussing work-related stuff. So yeah, discuss work-related stuff, the milestones, the metrics, the progress of the program or whatever, then put in your own time to discuss your personal development. And you say, I just want to quickly take 15 minutes to talk to you about the progress I'm making against my objectives. Those objectives we set at the beginning of the year that's going to take me to the path of directorship. I want to talk to you about the progress I'm making and where I need your help, because you need them to be invested in you as well, right? So that is it for timing. It's very, very important. There's a lot of things that we need to do to set ourselves up for success. There's a case study.
Because it doesn't matter how old you are in your career or young you are in your career. Like some managers just default to workflow. You want to talk to them and suddenly they're talking about, this document, that project, this, but they don't actually talk about your personal development unless you actually call them out and say,
yeah,
stop. I don't want to talk about that. And those who are on the tribe, I shared like my experience, right? I just did this where my manager just has this terrible habit of defaulting to workflow. And I had to just say to him, I'm so sorry, this is actually what I want to talk about. And we had even run out of time, and I set up another meeting the next day, and I said, I need to talk to you about other stuff. I don't want to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Call them out when they do it, because it's just the easiest thing to
do.
You just talk about work, and then everyone's not surprised at the end because they don't actually know what you want and what you're expecting.
Exactly. So I won't go through the case study. I can send this out. I can send the slides out for you guys to read, but I won't go through the case study. The second one is outcomes. The outcomes is the what. So this is facts, not feelings. This is not, my family is suffering, I really need the money. Like nobody cares, right? This is facts. This is, you have to be sure to have specific details of what you have achieved in line with your agreed objectives. So it's not about, I was the last to leave the office and I turned the lights off. That is not business objectives. So you need to demonstrate clear business impacts. So you can say, and I put an example there, before I started, we had X problems, but based on my work on the Y project, we've improved by X%. What value have you added? So this is where, I was talking about, I was on a webinar a conference last week, and I was talking to people about strategic hard work versus tactical hard work. A lot of us really default to tactical hard work. You stay there till late. You print the Excel sheet. You write the minutes at the meeting. All of those things, they are tactical hard work. What you need to be doing is strategic hard work that moves the dial forward and that gives you the visibility. So those are the kind of value you should be thinking about. Now, again, this depends on your stage and how far you've come in your career, but I believe that it's never too early to start to demonstrate values that set you apart. Because if I have two associates, and one of them is very concerned with, running around making coffee, booking meeting rooms and all that, and the other person is present in the meeting and is asking strategic questions or is putting their hands up for like important parts of the project or asking to be mentored or whatever, in my head, that other person, the second associate, is demonstrating critical thinking and demonstrating an understanding of strategy. So the value that you are adding is very, very important, that you need to demonstrate that. And again, that goes back to the way you write your objectives at the year. I've seen so many poorly written objectives. And the reason why you are and I will explain to you the reason why everything you write is important, is we don't all want to get there, but at some point in your career, you may get to a place where you're treated unfairly and lawyers may need to be involved. All of these things are documents. All of these things are evidence. So if your objectives are written in a woolly way where they can then say, okay, but it's not clear whether you demonstrated it or not, it makes the lawyer's job difficult. But where you are able to say, we agreed 13 things, I have done 13 things, this is the evidence, this is open and closed case, they write you a nice check, you go away, and you're fine. So always have that at the back of your mind. We don't want to get there, but always think about when you're writing your objectives, how will this stand in employment tribunal? No haziness, no way. You want to write in such a way that it's quite clear to somebody that does not even work in credit risk that, they told Shopware to bring in 3 clients. Shopware brought in 6 clients. So how is Shopware not meeting our objectives? You need it to be written in such a way that is crisp and is clear. Right? So, and you can demonstrate value. Because if your objective is all about, assist the team, there can be a bit of dialogue and a bit of argument about whether you either really assisted the team or not. But write it in such a way that Shopware would bring, will lead X project, deliver it to budget, and budget is 60K and deliver it to time. Time is 18 months. If Shopware then proves that she delivered it as 54K and she delivered it in 12 months instead of 18 months, Shopware has exceeded. It is quite clear. So those are the kind of things you need to be thinking about when you're thinking about the outcomes. Distinguish yourself. Doing a great job is often the baseline expectation. What sets you apart from others who are doing a great job? This is where you need to make life easier for your sponsor, the person that will be advocating for you in the calibration room. Because everybody says, she works hard and she does a great job. And then what people say, including me, is, well, we don't pay people not to do a great job. What has she or he done over and beyond, right? And this is where you need to get involved with other initiatives, right? So one, on your day job, don't just do the barest minimum. Knock it out of the park. Like, do it in such, the way Oprah said, be so good that they cannot ignore you. Do it in such a way, like, do it with so much pride, and so that there are no stories. And then when you've now finished your day job and you've done an outstanding thing, then get involved in something else outside of your day job that is a strategic thing. Right? And this is not just, again, another tactical hard work. This is something strategic. If your organization now, especially with this sort of Black Lives Matter thing, if your organization is looking for representation or like the Diversity Council, get there, get yourself involved and make your voice heard. If your organization wants to like recruit diverse talents or or they're doing something in the community, get involved and get advocates that can speak for you and that can give you feedback on that thing that will go into the system. So that it's easy for me as your sponsor in the room to demonstrate that, not only has Olubunmi delivered an outstanding job, but look at, while other people are going home and they've only done like a great job, but Olubunmi has not only done a great job, but she's also done all of these things that's contributed to the company's values and to the company's strategic goals. That is how you become a real MVP. Okay? And also the how is just as important as the what. Now, when a bad boss or a terrible manager cannot get you on the what, because the what is objective, they try and get you on the how, because the how is subjective, right? So at a time when culture and conduct have become a focus area across most industries, behavioral competencies are just as important as performance. So if your organization also rates on the how, you need to ensure that you have that lockdown. And this is where things like collaboration and being collegiate and being helpful and being on time, things like we really shouldn't be talking about, but guess what? Some people still can't manage to get to work at 9, right? Some people can't manage to get to work at 9. Get there on time. Honestly, there was a lady I know at Barclays that was put on a PEEP because she just couldn't get to work at 9. Of course, there were other things involved, but that was an opening, right? Because they then started monitoring. By the time they start monitoring your key card, like to look at when you logged in, you are out. Just, look for another job. You get what I mean? So you don't want to give people that kind of, that kind of sort of, you don't want to give people that kind of exposure into you. Get to work early, do your work well, and be collaborative, be collegiate, so that they don't get you on the house, so that, they can say, she does a great job, but she also does it with so much grace, and she does it, helping others while being a role model, because that is what tips you from just being a great employee into a role model employee. And that is what we are all aiming for. Because by the time other people start saying you're a role model, the case is closed. So that is what you're aiming for, the gold standard. Preparation. This is the how. How do you prepare? So a lot of organizations were expected to have a written self-assessment of your performance. So this is your chance to toot your horn. I've seen so many people write, people that are on my team or people that work with me, and they write their self-assessments, and my heart just bleeds for them, because you've not told me anything. You've just essentially just downloaded your job description. This is your opportunity to shine. So don't assume that your manager knows all the great things you've done. So for instance, at HSBC, when I worked at HSBC, I had a team of 110 people, and I had 13 direct reports. No matter how good I am, I can't just sort of know what everyone is doing. So you need to sell yourself to me in the self-assessment. And a lot of us, especially women, and especially Black women, we're like, what will my manager think? How will they, if I've said all these great things that I've done, how will they see me? You need to get out of your own head in that way. Don't care about the way, this is your career, right? Like when the money lands in your account, your manager is not spending it for you, right? Not spending it with you. So you need to think about it in such a way that this is my opportunity to toot my own horn, because you have to assume that all the great work you've done over the year, that your manager has not seen it. You have to assume. So when you come to that self-assessment, because there was a time that I too, I'll be like, especially from the African culture, they tell you don't be forward, don't be. So I just be like, yeah, and I contributed here and assisted here, and I've not contributed. I've led, I've delivered on time, I've done outstanding work. Those are the kind of words you want to put there. Delivered on time, execution focused, helped, deliver, trained, sponsored, mentored. Those active words, those are the things you want to put in your self-assessment. But a lot of us we get really shy, and you don't put that in self-assessment. You just think, okay, when I get to talk to him, then I would buffer it up. But by the time you're talking to him, calibration session has happened, he's late. So your self-assessment is really good. One thing I started doing was, and to help me so that by the end of the year, I'm not scrambling around thinking about, okay, what have I actually done? I have a journal, and I put in my monthly wins. I know some people do it, some ninjas, they do it on a weekly basis. I don't do it on a weekly basis, but monthly, I document my monthly wins. Did I onboard? Because, it might be things like small. So for instance, at one of the organizations I worked in, it was very hard to recruit, not because they didn't have the budget, but because the HR process was just long. And so I started tracking. It's like we were losing candidates. The candidates' experience wasn't good. Once people hear that this bank is after you, they'll be like, oh no, 6 months later, you'll still be there. You know when I've gotten an offer. So I worked really hard with my recruitment partners, and I changed that system. So that was something I documented as a win. That's where the SLA before was 6 months, but for my team, I was turning it around in 8 weeks. That is superstar stuff. So I put it there. And actually, that's one thing led to them asking me to design the flow for the whole of compliance. And that's resulted in what? Visibility. So toot your own horn, document your wins on a monthly basis. So by the time you're getting to write it in November, October time, you would have 10 months worth of wins and self-assessment written down. Practice makes perfect. So be sure to go over the main points with a trusted friend, especially if you have to go before a panel, because there are some appraisal sessions that are done, with a panel, not just one person. It might be your boss and your new boss, especially if you change bosses mid-year, and somebody else. So whatever you do, please do not just go into the discussion unprepared. Just, make sure you have your highlights. And the way I do it is, because mostly you get into the meeting and they'll say, oh, Bukola, tell me how your year has gone. No matter what happens, this is where I start. I always say, in fact, it's in my head, talk is on a loop. I always say, it's been a challenging, but absolutely fantastic year. Even if it's been a crap year. Because you need to lead with positivity. So when they say, have you had it, how's it gone? Don't slump your shoulders and say, I think it's gone okay. Never, never, ever plant doubt about your ability in people's minds. Lead with positivity. So that's what I always say. I always say, it's been an absolutely challenging year, but it's been fantastic with lots of wins. And then I document what the challenges were, what the wins were, and areas of improvement. Now, don't lead with so much positivity that you then don't talk about the areas needed for improvement. Self-awareness is a gift, right? So what I always do is I look for 2 to 3 areas for improvement, but I don't just land it on my manager's lap that, you know what, I've noticed that maybe this year I wasn't very collaborative with this other team, so that's an area of improvement. I say, they are obviously as usual, as we all do. So don't think that I'm the only one that has area of improvement. Even you have. So I say, as we all do. So it is a joint and several liability. It's not just me. So I say, as we all do, of course, there are always areas that can be improved, as we all do. So for instance, I noticed that because of the pressures of the program this year, and it got really, I wasn't as collaborative with the other team. But what I've done is I've already put meetings in place for us to catch up every month with the leader of that team so that we can trash it out. So that he knows that even though you've identified an area of improvement, you already have a solution in place, right? Or you can say things like, we all, as we all do, we all have areas where we could do better. So on that program where, it went slightly over, I thought it could be done in 12 months, but because of challenges with IT, so don't think it's because of me, because of challenges with IT, we went a bit over. So what I've done is I've then put in place a process where we can better manage and better report and flag on a dashboard where things are going wrong or where things are slipping, so that we can have early escalation and early warning system next time. You never ever talk about a problem area or area of improvement without tying it into a solution. Always tie a solution into it. So you see, this is where preparation is needed. And I always have a pre-meeting, right? But my manager never knows the pre-meeting. So the last one-to-one I have before my appraisal, I focus it on some of these discussions. So because there's no issue. So we are not up, we don't come out of that appraisal meeting like fighting each other and shouting. So the last meeting I have, like the last one-to-one, I then sort of start and try, showing him these things. But the best way is every month talk about your wins, every month talk about your challenges, every month talk about areas of improvement, every month talk about, how you've gotten better. So that by the time you get to the actual appraisal session, it's like, you're even referring to it, I talked to you about this in April, and, it's great that it was a challenge at that time, we were able to overcome it, so that's great. Like, you are weaving in and ins and outs. The best way is when you are leading the meeting, but the person does not even know that you're leading the meeting, because you are setting the tone for that outcome. Because either of two things will happen. If you've done a great job up to that point, it's like, yeah, fine, calibration session has gone well, blah, blah, blah. If for any reason he has not stood his ground at calibration session, and then you have this meeting, it would start to think twice. Like, he would be like, okay, how do we prep it? Because most times at your appraisal, I know other firms do it differently, but at your appraisal session is when you hear about your rating for the first time. Right? That's where you hear about your rating, whether you are standing, this improvement, and by that time, they are just telling you so that by the time you get back to your desk, you already see that it's locked in the system. You just need to sign it. So it's almost sort of like done. So that's why all of the preparation is important. So that by the time this person is going to the calibration session, where the ratings are finally decided, it is a slam dunk, okay? So that's why the preparation is important. Target is the why. So you need to set your expectations. What do you need in a role? So identify what is the most important thing for you for continued motivation and fulfillment in your role. Now, I know that people are at different stages in their lives. Not everybody is like wanting to like get the next promotion, get the next money. People are motivated by different things. So you need to determine in your mind, like, what is important to me. I know for some people, as long as they continue to have their work-life balance and, they are not there sort of like wanting to put their hands up for like the most stretched things. Some people, believe it or not, they don't even want a promotion because they're not motivated in that way. They just want to do good work, come to work, have their work-life balance, have a good salary or whatever. So you need to determine in your own mind, what is your expectation for not only the year-end appraisal, but for the year ahead. Do you want more money? Do you want more? Do you want a big bonus? Do you want stretch assignments? You need to communicate your ask. You need to be asking. See, your manager's job is to develop you. Your manager's job is to invest in you. But like I said, they don't all come, you know, in a, they're not all switched on in that way. So you need to be able to help them to develop you, and that's by communicating your ask. So at media, for instance, I told my boss last year, I said, I don't want to be in this role come 2020. So this was mid-year last year. So 2019 mid-year appraisal discussion, I said to my boss, I'm done. You know, I came in to do a transformation role, I've done it. And I don't want to do this role come 2020 January. And so what I want you to do is I want us to work together to look for, you know, how I can move teams within the bank. Okay, so those are the kind of asks you should be making. So you need to take the opportunity at the appraiser to position your expectations and be prepared to legitimize your ask. But again, if your appraisal time is where you are asking for a salary increase, it is late. Okay, you need to have been asking for a salary increase latest by your mid-year, latest by June, right? Don't come to year end and say, and actually for next year, I was wondering if I could get a salary increase. By then it's late. The remuneration committee is almost sort of signing off on the budgets. So start asking from your mid-year or even before at your monthly one-to-one. And again, legitimize your ask, right? So some of you have been, you know, were averting to do a job and suddenly you are doing 3 people's jobs. That is a legitimate ask, right? You know, nobody should be working for free. Or you were brought in to do a job, but you've had a role-based promotion, but there's been no, you know, there's been no increase in salary. You can ask. If you are not in line with market rates, if you are behind market, you can ask. But don't, I've seen many people ask me, you know, people like, especially women, even with tears, and they're like, you know, I can't, you know, Bukola, it's getting hard to leave. Okay, but that's not a reason for me to pay you more. Why, can you explain to me why you deserve an increase without crying, please, and making me feel bad that your children are starving? Like, tell me, why do you really deserve it? What have you done that's over and beyond? What is the market information? I coach so many ladies on how to ask using market data. Market data is out there. That's the biggest thing, because HR people, they know, they all have access to this in-house data. They know. But it's out there. There's some, you know, and that's why I have very friendly recruiters on speed dial that I can say, hey, Alex, you know, how much, like MDs are saying now that moving, you know, from here to here, how much are they earning? So I can then decide in my mind whether I'm behind or in need. Because sometimes when you're in an organization, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, your salary increase is not keeping up with the rate of inflation, right? So before you know it, you're behind. So you can legitimize that ask. And also opportunities and threats. So consider the potential circumstances which may prevent or accelerate opportunities, e.g. a period of organization restructure could be a double-edged sword, right? Or in this instance that we are all living in sort of COVID times, so that could be an opportunity, could be a threat. So and you also have to be tone sensitive. So right now, maybe your organization has announced we're getting rid of 900 people, then you now bounce in and say, my job is safe, but please can I also have more? Like, you need to be, like, you can't be tone deaf. You need to also be able to prejudge. And sometimes what I always say is that money is not the only thing you can ask for. You can ask for so many things. You can ask to work compressed hours. You can ask to work from home. You can ask for more benefits. You can ask for, you know, if like I coached a director, I said, you know, ask for a PA, ask to share a PA with another director. Like, why are you booking your own meetings? That's not the best use of your time as a director. Like, why are you printing, you know, running around like a headless chicken print? So ask for, you know, an EA 2 days a week or 3 days a week. There's so many other things you can ask for that is not necessarily money, that an organization may find it easier to give you than to give money. But, you know, like I said, don't be tone deaf. If like people are losing their jobs and you're lucky to have one, I'm not saying don't ask, but you need to consider all of the situations and the parameters around that. And this is the most important thing, the allies. Who are your allies? Who is pounding a fist at the table for you? If you don't have one, like, this is your biggest homework. You need to get, you know, it can be your boss. If it's your boss, it's great. If it's your boss's boss, it's better, right? the more senior the person is, the better it is for you. So who is pounding a fist at the table for you? This makes a world of difference. Take the time to cultivate meaningful relationships with people who can influence, sponsor, or support your career progress. This often means going out of your way to help them achieve their own goals. I always say to people, a sponsorship relationship is not a charity relationship. People don't sponsor people out of the goodness of their hearts. They sponsor people because you make them look good or there's something you're doing for them. Again, are you visible to your boss's peer group? Remember, there's this peer group that's going to be at the calibration sessions, right? That's the group that they do the deals with. So are you visible to them and to more senior levels across the organization? Because what you don't want is to get to the calibration session and like, oh, now let's talk about Mary. And the first question is, please, who is Mary? Oh, then they start trying to spend 5 minutes trying to describe Mary. You don't, that girl, the one that sits by the printer. At that point, the black one that sits by the printer, at that point is game over. Like people don't even know you, right? So be visible. Feedback is a gift. I can't even start to tell you the power of feedback, that people are vouching for you. So all through the year, gather the feedback, put it on the system, demonstrate instances where you have worked on areas of development highlighted by others. Feedback is a powerful tool. I once coached a woman who, there was a cynical attempt to get her out of the organization and they rated her needs improvement. What saved her was feedback. This lady had kept and collated feedback from senior people, junior people. So she had a 360, up, down, sideways. So much so that by the time the whole thing came out, our boss was moved because she was able to prove a clear case of discrimination. And she said, I cannot continue working for this guy. He's no longer tenable. And they moved him and demoted him. So feedback is really, really powerful. Now we're going to go to questions. I know I've spent so much time, but I hope you have found it useful. If you want the slides, I can make it available to Mary or Shokwe, whatever you call her. And we can take some questions now.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was so phenomenal. Thank you. Well, virtual class, so Bukola here. Virtual class, you know how we do when we're here. We do virtual class good. Chat. So yeah, for those who are on the tribe group, remember I shared like 6 things you should be talking about in your review. Like it was pretty much almost verbatim exactly what Bukola just said, and we have not discussed, we have not talked or anything like that. And I sent you guys a message this morning because we've been doing table topics this month, and our table topic this month was on performance appraisal specifically, and so we've been sharing articles and information and my thoughts or just things from experience. People have been sharing their experiences, and so today, just before this, I sent a very long list, and people have been reading it. But a lot of the things that I mentioned, Bukola raised as well. So definitely, it's just reiterating that those are really, really key, and like the things you should be thinking about all through the year. And in particular, what you're going to be talking about at that meeting, so key. So I'm looking through the questions now. A few I have already answered in the chat privately. Some of them were covered during the session. There was one about, so Nana asked about, she just started a new permanent job after temping for some time. So congrats on the new role, Charlene, this season. Your question was, does it make sense to set outcomes? So since obviously you're coming into the mid-year appraisal, so what do you want to use your appraisal for? Basically your question is a good time to set outcomes for the next 6 months. I guess we've already covered that, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you should be doing, Nana. Look to take it as your own sort of your objective setting session, and be very clear about what they expect in the first 6 months. And I will also say, first 6 months is longer term. Be very clear about what they expect in the first 90 days, right? So even though you've been there,
I'll show you guys this book. We're not exchanging notes, but I'm literally telling you, when I started my role after working 11 years at Bamo, and I started a new role, a senior role at Goldman, I literally look at all the tabs. This is it. I sat down and thought to myself, what do I want to do in the first 90 days? And this gives you such great tools. It's quite a dense book to read, but gives you such great tools if you're starting your career, like things to think about, even down to questions to ask your team, your colleagues when you're having one-on-ones, those initial questions to ask your manager so you can set expectations. But I was just about to recommend this book and Bukola took it completely. So yeah,
Yeah, so then, so don't just look at it as for 6 months, that's great, but to be very clear about the first 90 days. So that's like, then after a quarter, you then follow up and then say, how are you doing? So that feedback is very, very important. Yeah.
Great. So there's a question about what do you do when the person representing you is lackluster or not a high performer? Wow. A lot of the time we don't represent ourselves promotion. I get it, but yes, basically where your manager or the person who's taking your sheets is also themselves not necessarily a great performer.
Yeah, so this is where your boss does not have any influence, and he himself is probably on the way out. This is where you then need to do the work around his peer group, right? So you need to make yourself visible to his peer group. You need to make sure at least 1 or 2 people in his peer group or even his boss are bought into you, because these are now the people that will represent you. So, but what I would advise you to do is that never get into a situation where you're talking about him or bad-mouthing him or her and say, oh, is this and that. Just do the work in terms of converting these 1 or 2 people into fans of yours, do work for them, be visible for them, and then have a honest conversation to say, I'm going for promotion, and I know that James is going to be representing me, but I want to make sure there are more advocates in the room that can champion me, and I want to ensure that I can count on your support to do that. He or she will read between the lines that essentially I have no confidence in James guy, like I want you to be the one to champion me, and then they will be able to tell you whether or not they can do that. So that's what you need to do. You need to cultivate the relationships with either this person's peer group or this person's boss. That's what you do. You don't put your destiny in the hands of someone that has no influence and frankly has no power and is on his way out. You don't.
Amazing. Echo that. So there's a question on Rosemont. I'm not sure if I understand this question, but I'm going to read it. During appraisal with my skip level, I tried to add dates to desired results and it wasn't well received. How can this be navigated, as I find managers try to be very
vague? I think it's very vague.
Very vague during these discussions in order not to promise you anything.
Yeah, so that is quite tricky, because if your manager wants to be vague so that they can sort of get their way out of it, that is actually quite common. And when you say your skip level, is that your manager's boss? I will try to, skip level will be your manager's boss, right? Yes. So you are, so you try to add dates. So what you say to them is, I'm adding dates just to keep myself accountable as well, right? So you turn it on its head. You say, I'm adding dates just so that I can keep myself accountable, because I know that is good discipline for when we set, like the organization tells us to set SMART goals, and the T in SMART is time bound. So that is why I'm doing it. So you don't say, you don't get defensive. You just say, we are everything I read, I'm an avid learner, and everything I read about setting objectives and goals talks about it being SMART, and the T is time bound. Is there anything in here that you think is too ambitious or unrealistic, or you think is not aggressive enough, and we can talk about it? So no, when they say it wasn't worried, when they can't just say I'm not happy about it. Why are you not happy? Is it because it's too ambitious, not ambitious enough, too aggressive, not aggressive enough? You put it back to them, and then you say, what do you suggest? Because you've already told them this is best practice. If they're not, so they will now be careful not to suggest something that is not best practice. So you go at it on the best practice way, because I'm just trying to set SMART goals, and I just want your feedback on whether you think is not so ambitious or it's too ambitious, and then we can agree a more reasonable timeline, and you leave it at that.
Great. That's excellent. So I have a question, which is what we come up on our tribe group or even individually before. How do you deal with cases when you've received bad feedback? Well, feedback that's not necessarily constructive, so it's not great, but also doesn't necessarily tell you how to improve. But also, if you've ever received a poor performance rating before, how do you go about, because those things can be sticky. So how do you go about actually changing it so that you can get a better rating?
Right. So here you need to do a lot of work, because in the workplace, perception is reality. And a lot of people, ideally you shouldn't know people's ratings, but somehow, people know these things because people are people and they're fallible. And that is why they tend to be sticky. So I'll take it separately. So if you've received bad feedback or unconstructive feedback, I always say to people, don't just accept it, right? Don't just drink it and swallow it and say, I'll try better next time. Any feedback that does not tell you, that cannot give you instances and evidence and what you can do to be better, like, what are you meant to do with that feedback? Oh, Shokwe speaks funny at meetings. Okay, great. What does that mean? And what am I meant to do? So, and in my career, I've received all sorts of feedback. I've received feedback about you're too direct. I've received feedback about, you can be quite blunt. I've received feedback about, you sometimes, you make people feel small. All of those feedback, like cultural, what I call cultural feedback. The first thing I do is actually think, am I this? Because sometimes we do have blind spots, so we're not all perfect, right? Sometimes we have blind spots. So what I do is I talk to a few trusted people that I know that my truth tellers at work, and you all need to have a tribe of truth tellers at work, people that you actually trust. And in some cases, people are saying, Bukola, yeah, you can be very, very direct, especially when people are acting silly in meetings. You're just like, no, I'm not going to have that. And so I've then worked on softening my tone, on just being more collaborative. But where is the feedback that you can't do anything with? I then set up a meeting with the person and say, thank you for giving me this feedback. Actually, I want to understand the instances and the impact of me doing that thing on you or on other people or on the business or what we're trying to achieve. Most times they walk you back. Oh, I didn't really mean it that way. Oh, no, you're great. You don't really need to change anything. So I don't let them go. I just say, okay, based on what we now, I think it was a miscommunication. So I'll give you an out. Or it was a miscommunication, misunderstanding. So based on what we've not agreed, do you mind rewriting this feedback? Because this is not going to stick. But you see, it is hard for you to do that. Like, it is a lot of work. But you have to invest that time. But if it is feedback that, it actually there's some validity in it, you can thank them for the feedback. And then what I usually say is, that was a blind spot. I wasn't aware that I was coming across that way. What I would want is for you to, to keep me in check. So if it's like too direct, I'll say I'm working on, softening it, and we all work, it's very pressurized, but I would try and soften it. And I would want you to give me to check in. I want to check in with you regularly to see if I'm taking it on board. And that actually happened. And by the time this lady gave me feedback at year end, what she put there was that Bukola is an inspiration and a role model and somebody I want to be like. This was someone that gave me feedback as Bukola and her team are obstructive, they are too direct, they are not helpful. She put in a whole load of stuff. And there was some truth in that, but there was also the context behind it. So I explained the context to her and to my manager, and I said, I'm willing to try, but I want you to keep checking in. I want to keep checking in with you to see if that's going in the right direction. And I did once or twice. So much so that by the time she gave me this feedback at the end of the year, she said she's turned it around. Bukola and her team are now so helpful. Bukola is an inspirational role model. And as a woman in banking, this is somebody I aspire to be. So that's how you deal with that. If it's like you've gotten a bad year-end rating, or a rating that is not so good, in a lot of organizations, if it's like the lowest of the low, you'll be put on a PEEP anyway. And sadly, not every time, but sadly most times, a PEEP means, they really want to manage you out. But I've seen people that turn PEEPs around. It's all about the enthusiasm and the energy with which you come at it to attack it, right? So it depends on
what a PIP is. It's a
performance improvement plan.
That's what
it's a performance improvement plan. That's what it
is. Now at the stage where like they're trying to manage you, either manage you to get better or manage you out of it.
Yeah, but sadly, most times in organizations, going on a PEEP, especially at a more sort of senior level, maybe not at the junior levels, but from VP and above, if you get put on a PEEP, it is like a death sentence. But I've seen a director that's turned around a PEEP. And again, it's all about the context. So most times, nobody is just bad or underperforms. There's usually something around it. Either they're not getting on with their boss, or they're not in the right role. So you need to do a bit of introspection. What is the underlying cause of this less than satisfactory performance feedback? This is not the time to get defensive. It hurts, believe me, it hurts like hell, It hurts, you take it personally, it drains you of energy. But what you can do is you need to really look inwards and think about what is the underlying cause? Like, what's the context? And by the time you understand what the context was, maybe you were ill, maybe you had family bereavement, maybe you were just busy, or maybe you're not in the right place, like that role is not good for you. Then you sit with your manager, and at that meeting, I always suggest, bring in HR, sit with your manager and HR and say, I'm disappointed with this. I am, so don't fight it. Like, I am really disappointed with it. This is not me. This is not who I am. I pride myself on being a professional. However, I am really keen to turn it around, but I just wanted to explain some of the context. I'm not making excuses, but I just want to explain some of the context behind the situation that led to this. You explain the situation and then say, I want, the performance improvement plan or whatever. Even if they don't offer you a performance improvement plan, you put in a plan in place, because that's just the way you get out of it, right? Because a PEEP, most times in organizations, is a formal process, and they usually put people on it for like 6 to 12 months, and then your manager and HR have to sign that, yes, you've turned it around. Most times, people would have left before then. People don't really engage with the PEEP process. But like I said, if you really engage with it and you really do, you come at it with a lot of enthusiasm and energy and, gusto, people can turn it around.
Excellent. So guys, we've literally run out of time. And me, I'm always saying, I have to respect you guys' time, because it is sassy. I know we have a couple more questions, which we can take, but what I wanted to quickly share with you guys, and so that people who wanted to jump off could, and then we can take the last set of questions. But if you guys want to stay, feel free. I've got time. I don't know if Bukola has a few more minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. I can stay till 7:30. It's fine.
Awesome. So I wanted to share, I'm just sharing an image on the chat. So there's a question from Mary A on tips for showcasing your performance and being visible in a virtual remote working world. I just sent you a flyer, and everyone a flyer to a session that Career Masterclass is hosting with Bukola and Tommy, who's also on this call, and it's literally about virtual visibility. So there's a lot that I can say about virtual visibility, and I have done in the past. And if you are on my social media, on viSHEbility social media, you would hear a lot about visibility. And if you're on the tribe group, we've talked a lot about that, but this is basically like a session that's happening on Tuesday, I believe, on specifically about the topic. So definitely try to plug into that. I wanted to share that and showcase that for you guys. Cool. And then also wanted to invite you, if you're not part of the tribe group and you would love to be part of the tribe group, we're going to send a link out now. So Tony, who's a member of our team, is going to post the link of the form you need to fill to get into the tribe group, and it would give you the Telegram link. It is a chat room basically on Telegram. We're going to evolve this as we go along into maybe like a proper email tribe thing. But for now, this is super easy, and it's on your phone, it's easy access. And so if you have any questions, anything, like we have a lot of members of the tribe are on this call. And so we have regular sessions like this. We have career conversations. We have started doing table topics, and people just literally drop messages and say, I'm looking for a role. I have this question. I'm going into this meeting. Can you get tips? And it's just basically a community supporting each other. So if you want to join, it's a great time to join because it's free. But for now, this is not going to be forever. But this is a great time to join and actually meet, women like you who are at various stages of their career, and for us to all try to gather together and support each other. So I wanted to share that. And then additionally, it would be great to get some feedback on this session. So again, Tony's going to share another link to a feedback form. It would be amazing to get some feedback. Bukola did fantastic virtual class all around, but it would be great to get some feedback on how this session went, what went well, what could we have done better. Feedback is a gift, as you mentioned. What could we have done better, and also other sessions that you might want to see. So Tony's going to drop that link in, and then I think what I'll just do is then go back to a couple of the other questions that were left, which was on. So Arlette asked a question on. How can I ask for an increase? Or how can I ask or increase my chance of getting a year-end bonus? during appraisal. I think we covered a little bit of this, but Bukola, if there's anything you want to specifically add?
Yeah, I think, Arlette, don't wait till year end to start making the ask. And, so you start now. Of course, any organization will tell you when it comes to bonus, they'll say, it's based on performance, it's discretionary, not only based on your performance, based on the company's performance. But you know what, I like to manage expectation. We are all, I don't know where you're based. I don't know if you're based in the UK, but anywhere you're based, businesses have been impacted by COVID, right? And businesses are not making as much money. So everybody's expectation will have to be level set that bonuses in 2021 will not be as great, if any, right?
Yeah, businesses are a bonus. Like I've actually just
yeah. So businesses are just trying to just stay afloat. So so again, like I said, don't be tone deaf. You can start to sort of trial the conversation with your manager to say, have you heard anything? What is the tone from the top? Are we going to get a bonus this year? Is it going to be performance based, or is the company, I can guarantee you your manager will say, nothing has been decided. Obviously, because of COVID, it's tough operating environments. And you say, yeah, that's great, but I just want you to know that if anything is going around, I will want to be looked after based on my performance, and leave it at that, right? And that you are within your right to say, I would like to be looked after. I would like, I would like something to reflect all of the hard work I put in this year, but I appreciate that we're in very difficult trading environments, and you just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Excellent answer. Chichi said, don't respect our time. You have to respect your time. And Mobalaji had a question on, this is actually an interesting one. So I work for a law firm, and we've just had mid-year appraisal, but that was over a month ago with no feedback. What do I do to get a sense of my performance, especially as we recently moved to a new department and I'm working with a partner that just joined the firm?
You ask, okay? Mobology, you just ask. You just say, dear new partner or whatever, we had a thank you for the time. Thank you for media appraisals. Conscious has been over a month now, and I've not gotten any feedback. Would really appreciate this because this will be instrumental to my growth, and I would like to work on any development points in advance of year end. That's it. You ask.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, appraisals are you're supposed to get feedback all through, but the point of the appraisal is to get feedback.
Yeah, that's the whole point of media, especially for them. Yeah. And not only to get feedback, to know how you are trailing, right? What you are trending, they call it trending. What are you trending in advance of year end? So you need to make the ask, because you then can't, obviously if you were a senior as me, I'll say, you put in there like, because, I want to aim for a no surprise approach at year end. But if you're not a senior, you can say, I would appreciate, I appreciate receiving some feedback now so that I can incorporate it into my development plan in advance of year end. Yeah. You said the same thing in different ways, but you do need to ask.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, and this is also another no in terms of every time you guys have this kind of meeting, especially the formal, make sure you have something in writing from your manager too. So it's absolutely unacceptable that you had a meeting and a month on, you've not heard, nah. So first of all, you should have already
or something else you can do, Mobology, is you can also, if you recall sort of the main general thrust of the discussion, you write it up and say, do you agree with this assessment? Do you agree that, you need something in writing? So you can either go for approach A and ask, or you can go for, you grab the bull by the horn and you say, this is my recollection, minutes of the meeting or whatever, summary of the media appraisal. And you say, does this, do you agree with this recollection, or do you agree with this summary? Because people are just lazy, and especially if he's new, he's probably trying to find his feet as well. So you just need to help him out there.
Yeah, and then just on the point of, I don't think we have any other questions, but I'll just make this last thing. So when we get, at least in the roles that I've worked in, usually you'd have the meeting is done, you have a summary, and the guy sends you an email. The guy or the man or the woman, your manager sends you an email and says, oh, this is the feedback, summary. Are you okay with it? Do not feel shy to edit that document if you don't like what is being said, or you don't feel like it is fully reflecting the conversation. Don't feel shy, because the thing that sometimes you've seen, there's actually a discrepancy between, you're doing really well. The guy tells you, oh, great feedback, great. And then when you read the messaging, it's a lot more muted and soft. Challenge that, because unfortunately what goes into the file is what is going to like judge. That's how you're going to be judged in terms of like the final ratings or your pay. It's not what has been said in the meeting, it's what has been documented. So definitely keep that like at the top of your, so edit if the guy says, why do I keep saying guy? I've generally tended to have male managers, so I think that's just sort of in my mind. But if your manager says, are you okay with the file? You don't have to be okay with the file. You can say, I'm not okay with the file, or I think this needs to be edited, or I would prefer if this was worded this way. Or you write your own little caption thing at the bottom and boost the conversation to make sure, like, based on what we said, my performance has been great through the year, this and the other, and cap it off, or make sure that what is documented really reflects the spirit of what has been conversed. It is so key. I've had an analyst effectively been put, like, not promoted. When it was his time to be promoted, he wasn't promoted, and simply and unfortunately, all of his ratings were meets performance. So he never got does not meet performance. So there was no real clear reason why he couldn't have been promoted, especially at that level, analyst to associate. And no one had given me anything, but he just didn't get promoted. And so that then just became this whole shock factor. Even I was like, and I wasn't his manager, but I didn't know like exactly where it was coming from. And and at that point, I said, you need to challenge the ratings they've given you, because if they've given you a meets performance all through with good feedback, then it means that something is missing. Because then if that's the case, then there's no reason why you and your peer group, you within your peer group, should be the only one who wasn't promoted. So definitely make sure there's an alignment with your conversation and what is documented. So hopefully, so I think people definitely agree. Cool. Bukola also, yeah, great. So Bukola also shared Stretch Connect, which is their free online platform for you guys to join. There's loads of resources, loads of courses you can pay for as well. There's a Stretch conference coming soon, so we're going to share details as and when, like me and Bukola talk all the time, and I always say to her, like, her Masterclass is one of our training partners effectively. So we leverage a lot of their resources, and I'm always a huge advocate of everything that they do. And whenever I'm called to serve and do anything, I don't even think about it. It's just like a yes. So it's always, so definitely tap into, and yes, and she's also shared a LinkedIn group that they've started, which is a community similar to the viSHEbility community, but it's on LinkedIn. So again, you can tap into so many resources, and it doesn't matter. You can join as many communities as you want. The better, the more the merrier, and share your information across. Ultimately, we all want better outcomes. We want everyone to have successful, thriving careers.
Absolutely.
And to just do that in a way like it's not as onerous as it perhaps was for, I'm doing better in my career because Bukola has perhaps made some mistakes or had some issues, and now she's sharing her knowledge. And so I'm leveraging what she's learning, but I'm also doing the same for those who are coming behind. That's the whole thing, and my whole ethos is each one teach one. That's it. We all learn, and then we pass it along, and we have to always be those funnels that are passing information along. So definitely tap into all of these things that are here. Share information regularly. I'm always challenging the group, the community, like, search your job blogs for people, whatever resources you find, just bring it to the fore, so that I want all of us as a community of women, by the time we look back 5-10 years, in fact, not even 10 years is long, but let's look 5 years down the line, let's look back and realize actually we've really held each other's hands through this process, and we're all better for it. So
and Shokwe, I just want to say a huge thank you, for having me, and for being here, spending this with these amazing ladies. We share the same ethos, because I believe that a rising tide raises and lifts all the boats. And also, like, what I've shared with you guys today is not something I've read on the pages of a book, right? This is not something I read on Harvard Business Review. This is lived experience of sitting in many, many rooms. I've made mistakes, and I've shared with you quite authentically about how I wasn't prepared for promotion and all that. And I don't want you guys to make these mistakes, because if I've made a mistake, Shokwe has made a mistake, there's really no point, no benefit to you guys making the same mistakes. You will make your own mistakes, but it shouldn't be this one. Now you have the knowledge, you understand what happens behind closed doors, you understand the calibration sessions, you understand the curve. Don't let your lack of knowledge force you to the bottom of the curve. It exists, guys. Like, if you forget anything, if you're like, flagging because these things are hard, it takes time to embed, just remember Bukola said there is a curve. you do not want to be at the bottom of that curve. And these tips, these things that I've told you are the way, that is how you get out, and you do not, you are not part of those people that forced into a curve. But if you need any help at all, I'm sure, within Shopware's viSHEbility tribe, there are people there to help you, on our online free platform. We have courses that can help you. We have people that can help you within the LinkedIn community as well. We're here to help each other, because the narrative has to change. The narrative must change, and the change starts with you and I. But thank you so much again, Shopware, for having me. I've had a super fantastic time.
Thank you. Yay. Virtual claps again for Bukola. So excited that we've done this. Sorry for taking up another half an hour of your time. Blame Chichi, who said that we should not respect your time. That's fine. But actually, no, don't blame Chichi. I'm glad that we're all able to engage and we're getting our questions answered, and it's been helpful. So what I am going to do, after this, so don't forget to, say your feedback, join the tribe if you're not already on, great. Bukola is going to kindly send me, Panache, the slides so we can share that with those who have attended. That's great. And then, so we're going to send an email which is going to have the slides. We're also going to download the recording and put it onto a private room in YouTube, with a private link, so that you can access the recording again, just to kind of refresh, because I think this is really evergreen content, and we can always revisit it. And yeah, we'll continue the conversation on the tribe group for the rest of the month on performance review. So definitely come on board and join the conversation. Bukola shared links on Stretch Connect, as well as the Career Masterclass community group as well. Definitely engage with that, and add, and the virtual viSHEbility event on Tuesday is a great one to register, attend. I haven't registered yet, but I'm going to do that right now. I've been passing it along, but I haven't actually registered, but I'm going to do that. It was on my to-do list. But again, thank you so much. Always appreciate you guys joining, giving up your time to come. Hopefully it's always worth the everything that we put into making it happen, and you take something away, and it really helps you thrive better in your career. So if you have any other questions, send questions to the team at viSHEbility.com, email as well. There's so many contact links. Check out our website. Our website looks super different, guys, because we just revamped our entire website and went live on Monday with some kinks, but we've all fixed all of that. But definitely check out our new bright, colorful website. If you actually saw the old viSHEbility website, this would be a complete breath of fresh air. So definitely check out the website, the new stuff, all of the videos and the stuff that we've done before is all on there. There's also new coaching courses that are available, so if you want to sign up for any of that, or a clarity call, one-on-one, you can do that through the website. But yeah, so it's so much going on, and yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of, growing with everyone, and I'm looking forward to the next session. So with that, have a fantastic evening. Thank you again, Bukola.
Thank you so much for having me.
And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Bye.